The driver should have the directions. We were going to have you sit in here so that you could give her directions if she needed.
Okay.
And then David was going to sit here with the camera on the mic.
Okay.
Okay. Hi everyone. Okay, thanks for coming out. My name is David. I'm helping curate the show along with many other people. It's been a very collaborative process. This started pretty much in the fall of last year with some work some local artists and groups were doing, trying to address problems of urban redevelopment in Baltimore and what this was doing to the city's social structure, how it was affecting the poor and other people, like other general problems we have with urban space. And we've been talking a lot with Glenn, who's been working in Baltimore for decades on some of these issues. And this is kind of developed out of dialogue with him, and this is adapted out of some tours he's done with Johns Hopkins in the past. But he can talk more about that.
Okay, as David said, now for y'all in the back, okay, I'm a big man, but I have a soft voice, okay? So y'all might want to come up closer.
He has a microphone.
Oh, great.
As far as it goes.
Testing. As far as it goes, I'm going to talk. If y'all can hear me, my name is Glenn Ross, okay? I've been in East Baltimore all my life. I'm 56 years young, been a single parent for 26 years, raised 2 daughters and have 6 grandchildren. I worked under 3 different mayors here Schaefer, Dewburns, and Smoke. Okay? There's over 674 community leaders throughout Baltimore City. The city paper has identified me as the best community advocate in Baltimore City. Okay, that's a great title to have, but I'm here to tell you that I'm one of many unsung heroes throughout this whole city and also in East Baltimore. I do these neighborhood tours for anyone that want to do it. I've done it with over 300 clergies in East Baltimore. I've been doing it for the last 7 years with Johns Hopkins schools, School of Nursing, School of Medicine, School of Public Health. I do neighborhood tours and created this toxic tour. Now, I do it now with the University of Maryland Department of Social Work, and now with the Micah School, Maryland Institute College of the Arts. So this thing is really expanding, okay? Because we're showing people what's going on in our neighborhood. You're going to see a lot of environmental racism, okay? You're going to see where toxic materials are deliberately being dumped in poor neighborhoods, okay? So if y'all have any questions, I'm going to be like this. If y'all have any questions, just raise your hand as we're going along. But I know you got to keep the windows down so you can get a breeze. But I promise you, at the end of the tour, your eyes will be scratchy. Okay, now, I'm not serious. But you're gonna feel something. You're gonna smell stuff. You're gonna have it on your tongue. Now we're just driving through. So think about the residents that gotta live here 24/7 and deal with this mess. This art exhibit is called "Investigating the Creation of the Ghetto." I thank the Camp Baltimore crew for putting this together, because as a community advocate, I've been saying this for 30 years. I've sat on plans at City Hall with no documentation, but saw how they talked about moving the drug culture people, taking resources out of the community, because 20 years down the road, there's another development plan coming. So I say poor neighborhoods are created, okay? So we can go ahead and start now. And until we get to our first site, if y'all have any questions, just ask it. But as we go on tour, we're going to stop at other areas. We're going to even be going by the Biotech Science Park area. Okay, that's where they're relocating hundreds of families to create this Biotech Science Park, which is just north of Johns Hopkins. This was another neighborhood that was allowed to decay. Have anyone seen the story The Wire? Anyone seen The Wire? Okay, it's all about things that have happened here in Baltimore City. This one particular incident they talk about where the police commander told all the drug dealers and drug users that you can sell and use drugs in one block. It wasn't one block. It was a neighborhood. Okay, and all that helped to decay the quality of that community.
Is that what they call the Badlands?
The what? The Badlands?
The Badlands. That's what they were calling it in the radio. They did that.
Well, that's what that's what they was referring to, but we still call it ghettos. They don't want to use the word ghetto anymore. Okay. Testing. Okay. Testing. Okay.
We were going by your area.
Like Elderly Farm.
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, we're the ones that
Yeah.
as well, yeah.
I've heard you several times on the radio.
Oh, okay. Well, you can listen to me for a long time. Right?
Well, no, just, I mean, like on Mark Steiner or something like that.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, see, that's the thing about people from the community that's very outspoken and what have you. They always want to give us those titles because it alienates us from other leaders, and it's done on purpose. Okay, there's no way in the world they should have came up and said I was the best community advocate. There's too many of us out here that's fighting this. But when that happened, some people other neighborhood leaders got upset, and they didn't want to deal with it. But that's the whole part of the game. Okay, it's divide and conquer. This city is afraid of coalitions. Okay. This city is afraid of coalitions. When I worked for CPHA and Margie Roswell, Margie, okay, I was director of the Neighborhood Resource Bank. My job was to solicit for donations to give to poor neighborhoods. But we also created a resource center. We also created the Coalition for Beautiful Neighborhoods. These were neighborhood leaders from all over the city. We're the ones who sued the city behind legal billboards advertising alcohol and tobacco. We're the ones that formed the Liquor Board Coalition. Also, from out of it, we were dealing with nuisance neighbors and drug nuisance houses. How to get these people out of your neighborhoods. And Miss Ann Bloomingberg, that was an attorney, was on the committee. Ann Bloomingberg took that piece and she formed the Community Law Center, which was a group of law students, graduate students, and also attorneys that provided pro bono work for nonprofit organizations. We're going down Monument Street right now, and you see the prison right here on the left. As we go down, I'm going to say left or right, and I'm going to show you housing units that as we speak, people are going to have to be relocated. They haven't decided quite yet where they're going to relocate to. Some people are being relocated from one public housing unit to the next. In some cases, within the last 5 years, some people in public housing have already been relocated to 3 different public housing units and still have to be relocated again. Now you can see how massive Johns Hopkins is just up in front of us. At Hopkins, like any other big conglomerate, they buy property. When people in East Baltimore talk about Johns Hopkins, we think one Johns Hopkins, there's 5 Hopkins. All have different deans, different boards, and neither one of them know what each other's doing. So what's happening is that each institution is buying up whatever available property that they can acquire without sitting down and looking at the damage that they're doing to the community. So before...
What are the 5 Johns Hopkins?
You got Kennedy Krieger, you got the... You have the university, which is under that, the School of Nursing, School of Public Health, and the School of Medicine. And you got Johns Hopkins, Johns Hopkins Hospital. That's the 5 right there. The public housing to your left, that's Latrobe Homes. They're relocating people out in that area already. And right now, as they're tearing down some other public housing units, they're relocating some of them over here in this area. Right behind this church and this building right here, you see some public housing units. This is Somerset Homes, low income housing. About a month ago, these people got a notice that they had to be relocated within the next 90 days. Now to your left right here are some more public housing units, and we're coming up also to Lester Morton Homes. What has happened down here, this is West of Somerset, Lester Morton a little further up. Can you see how they painted up front here of the maroon color, and they painted the doors a kind of bluish gray? If you really think about it, those are Johns Hopkins colors. The plan is that since they painted this and put this up here, they raised Section 8, they raised the rent. So a lot of public housing people that's on Section 8 is not going to be able to live in these houses. The plan is that once they move out, that they're going to rehab these homes, and this is where Hopkins is going to put all their students. The tall building right here on the right is called the Hampton House. These were dormitories. All the way down Broadway, all these tall buildings were dormitories that Hopkins turned into offices. But what has happened is that Hopkins wants their students to live closer to their campus. So they're going to displace a lot of low-income families to turn these housing units into housing for Hopkins people. The neighborhood to the left is where the Biotech Science Park is going to be at. It's from one block back Broadway, and it goes all the way back down to 3 blocks. Here's a Carlington. Everything to the left, all those houses, all those streets that you see to your left will be completely demolished. Looking straight down Monument Street. Monument Street, Johns Hopkins owns 70% of all the property from Broadway all the way out to Pulaski Highway. They brought up the movie theater, they brought up, which also had a bowling alley in the back. Now, the Biotech Science Park, the southern boundary is right here at Madison, okay? It goes all the way up to the bridge. You can see the railroad tracks in front of us. If we had a map, it would look like the top of a piano. So the eastern boundary is 3 blocks here to Carlington, and it's 2 blocks back here to Broadway. All of the residents in this area are being relocated. All of these homes will be demolished with the exception of this particular block right here. Now, when they first approached these residents in this area about the Science Park, they wanted to give these people something like $20,000 to $30,000 for their home. The city and Hopkins was told that this community was dead. Most of the homeowners were in their 80s and 90s. What happened was that these seniors' family members came back and they formed an organization called SMEAC. Now they have to give these people at least $70,000, and also they have to give them $150,000 to $2,000, $1,500 to $2,000 for relocation money. The pile of dirt that you just saw to the left, now just think about it. These houses were built in the 20s. They were built with plaster with horsehair, asbestos, lead, other contaminants. When they tore these buildings down, they left all this stuff right here on this area. When they started tearing down blocks of houses years ago, they didn't do anything with it. So that meant that that whole block of houses that was demolished, all that soil was contaminated. Children played on it. Most of them were small streets, so they was on the rear of people's houses. So what's in the rear of people's houses? It's your backyard. It's where you hang your clothes in. It's where your pets are. It's where your kitchen, bathroom window, and door is. It's where most people's bathrooms are. So that means that whenever on a windy day, all this dust is coming into the home and people are also hearing it. Now this neighborhood here is called the Carlington community. Now if you look at how many homeless people we have here in Baltimore, just look at all these vacant houses. Some of these houses have been vacant for 20 and 30 years. You can see how the high weed is, the high weeds and what have you. But you see, as they buy each house, the properties depreciate. So you see there's only a few families still living in this area. But there's a future development plan also to tear all these houses out. This is the second phase of the Biotech Science Park.
Excuse me, where's Kennedy Playground?
We just passed it. This is Bibble Street going up to Edson Highway.
Oh, okay, because it says turn to the parking lot.
Oh no. That Kennedy Green. We're going up to it.
Oh, okay.
It's right off of Bibble. It's a block before we get to
Oh,
the
okay.
park. Now you can see here where they started tearing down blocks of houses. You can see like behind this church on your right. Now, years ago, I'm going back 40 or 50 years ago when Bethlehem Steel was booming, Continental Painting Company. But all these industries, which was to the east, that employed a lot of people from these communities. Well, when these factories and warehouses and mills closed up, just keep straight about 2 more blocks. When they closed up, there was no monies in the community. Within a 18-block radius of where we are right now, we lost 9 supermarkets. The markets had to close up because there wasn't that much money in the community. When there was a lot of money in the community, people were able to send their kids to college. People had cars. Mayor Dubern lived 1 block to the left from the left of us. Delegate Hattie Harrison lives the next block over to the left. You got Councilwoman Paula Branch that lives over here on Biddle Street. And you got to stop to think about it. This neighborhood produced most of the politicians from East Baltimore, and you have to ask the question, why did they let this neighborhood go down? Now the big building on the left that used to be Levinson and Klein, Hopkins purchased that building. Or the next entrance on your right, turn it. Okay? Now, on your right, the community was told that these were going to be storage facilities. But what happened is that the community okayed it. The storage company never moved in. All this property was purchased by Johns Hopkins Kennedy Krieger. And this is the neighborhood that I came out of. Okay, go all the way back. All the way back, straight to right. Give as close to the left as you can when you see the whole thing. Now, if you look to your left, you can see how high the dirt is over here. Can you see through the trees? There's a little over, right about here. Okay. Now, years ago, we used to play up in here, okay? This, the school about 4 blocks behind me was called Fort Worthington Elementary School. And we're going all the way back to Fort McHenry days. The soldiers used to walk 2 blocks ahead of us down Luzerne Street, all the way down to the harbor, and they used to catch the ferry over to Fort McHenry. Well, everything from the light pole behind you here coming this way was a cemetery. That's where all the military soldiers were buried at. Now, when we was kids, we saw the bulldozers come through. They bulldozed the headstones. They didn't remove the graves. They covered it with soil. They threw down some seeds. They threw down some hay. Next spring, we had these huge sunflower plants. And also at the base, there's a railroad track. If we was on the other side of this mound of dirt right here, this dirt is 4 stories high. You can see the top of the telephone poles. Now, at the base of the railroad tracks, they had these large African ferns. Now, we played in this stuff. We even took some of the sunflower seeds to take back home, and our parents cooked them up for us. No one told us that this was a phytomediation project. It was a pilot project. Phytomediation is where you can grow vegetation to pull toxic out of the soil. Sunflowers pull several different toxics out of the soil, but especially lead. All this here, all this was cemetery here, all back there was Armco steel, okay? So they planted the sunflowers to pull the lead out of the soil. at the base of the hill by the railroad tracks was those big African ferns. African ferns pull out arsenic. They use arsenic to embalm the bodies. Okay? So this was a pilot project. So really, this whole area should have been fenced off with skeleton bones and a skull to tell us not to play in, but no one told us this. In this area here, you have one of the highest respiratory problems in the whole state.
Who was doing it?
It was an environmental pilot project
By the federal government.
by the federal government. The politicians okayed this site because the steel mill had closed up. Now that's that years ago. All this dirt right here. Are y'all familiar with the brownfields projects?
Yeah.
Okay. You can go and drive on the brownfields projects. Okay. They're taking contaminated soil from all these brownfield sites and they dumping it back up in this neighborhood that's designed to be future ghettos. Okay, that's environmental racism. So in this is contaminated soil. So when the wind blows up, we're inhaling this. Now, no one's talking about underground water flow. Everything from here goes all the way back down to the harbor. Okay? And when we get down there, I'm telling you a whole nother story. But
Well, I just want to say they get their customers, don't they? Johns Hopkins has a lot of future customers.
I made a statement one time that Hopkins was the biggest recycler in the state of Maryland. Because they recycle people, they recycle us. And they literally make us sick. Okay? Now, no one's talking, like I said, about underground water flow. Our storm drains, our sewage drains are busted. Everything runs down to the harbor. But also underground water flow. So that means all that contamination is going to eventually go back down into the harbor. Okay? About Johns Hopkins. On Rutland Avenue between Monument Street and Madison, Hopkins has an incinerator. Infectious incinerator. Years ago, when I had the documentation at home, they wanted to have a community town meeting. They only invited the neighborhood groups 4 blocks to the east, to the south, and not from my neighborhood. Okay? We demanded another hearing. Okay? During that time, if Hopkins smokestack was 4 feet taller by federal regulations, Hopkins would have had to have purchased an anti-pollution device called scrubbers that at the time would have cost them $2.5 million. So now, since it's 4 foot short, they didn't have to do it. They're burning body parts, AIDS material, everything in the red bags. Goes up in the air, comes right back down on us, okay? Both sides of Edison Highway, harmful steel. Back down Edison Highway, there's 2 more sites also where they dump in this contaminated soil. Okay? If you look now, I'm gonna say look this way, I'm getting confused. If you look this way, all that green space, all that was the landfill. You see the white barrel with the smokestack, they're letting off gases. Okay? You see the park over here, Bocheck Park? You don't see much play equipment in there, do you? Anyway, I'm on the park. So you get contamination coming from the old steel mill and also coming from the old landfill. That's why they wouldn't put any play equipment up there for kids. But until the community got educated about environmental and health-related issues, we didn't have a clue what was happening in our area, but all we knew, we had all these sick people. We have one of the highest mortality rates in this area.
Wasn't there a brick factory over here too?
A brick
There used to be a brick factory here.
Yes,
What happened to that?
Same thing. The businesses closed up.
Yeah.
She asked the question, there didn't used to be a brick factory? No, I'm glad you told me that. I forgot about that.
I used to live right over there.
Yeah. It really was. There was a brick factory over here as well. So once they leveled the ground over here and put those white barrels with the tanks in it, the neighborhood been like really watching what they're doing here. But the neighborhood groups to the south, which is predominantly white, are upset because too many minorities, African Americans, are moving down that area and kids going to school. So predominantly white groups down here, and I'm vice president of Seco Board. okay, in Southeast Baltimore. They wanted to build another middle school so the African American kids would go to. They were planning to build a school on this. Okay? All this is documented.
Site, right?
Yeah. All these are future brownfield sites over here.
Isn't it supposed to take like hundreds or thousands of years for that for the toxins really to deplete? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
then they laid what?
But in the meantime, it's immediate problems, okay? The thing that we just passed, all that's new. Hopkins purchased the old Ford car shop right here. Hopkins put all that land back here. They put all the buildings back here. Right here, we come into Constellation power source.
Maybe if you stand up in front, you won't have to stretch so far.
Okay. Now, everything to you have to do like this.
Stand back farther.
No, now be crossing her. The wire's only that long. Everything over here, if you look at those generators let off PCB. It's cancerous. Okay? I'm gonna get back to that in a minute. Up on the left, we're coming up to the Coca-Cola company. The Coca-Cola company use ammonia to keep their refrigeration in gear. Numerous times, the Environmental Protection Agency have to come up here because there's leaks coming from the ammonia tank. So all the employees have to leave the building. But what they do is they tell their employees, don't cross the street, just stay outside the building because they don't want to bring attention to the community people. Okay? But still, they're right outside the building. All right? And the Environmental Justice Coalition has all the documentation on what goes on in this area. Now to the right, you'll see this is an area that's called clean soil. This company is hard to remove contaminated soil from brownfield sites. You can't really see much of it from here, but it's 2 blocks long, 6 stories high, all dust. Heavy winds come up. Heavy rains, you see all the dirt come down here.
Turn this way. Because it's not saying, it says Monument Street runs into Pulaski Highway.
Yes. Yes. There's no settlement control at the storm drains. Once again, all this is going down, the storm drains going right back down into the harbor. Okay? Now, as soon as we get at this intersection, you will see there's the filling station, there's the Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, but yet still you have all this dust and contamination all up in this area. Now, Clean Soil is selling their contamination. We're gonna go around and come back around again. Clean Soil is selling their. Are we going there?
Clean Soil is the name of the company, right?
Right.
It's not that it's actually Clean Soil.
Clean Soil with a K is the company's name. They're removing contaminated soil. The U.S. Attorney.
Like Patriot Act.
I don't know, we on Pulaski Street.
And we're supposed to make a left on.
It says right into Lombard.
Okay, we missed it.
Turn back around.
Yes. Let's make a left and a left. Okay, clean soil is hard to remove contaminated soil. There's 3 ways of dealing with contaminated materials. One is you remove it and you put it somewhere. The other one is that you cap it. You put it in cement, top it off with cement. The other one is that you put a covering over it. Okay? So over here, I'm showing you where they moved it at. Now, Clean Soil with a K, the company, is selling their contaminated soil to a cement company that's only known as SSI, a company found in Prince George's County. They're mixing it with the cement. It's still contaminated. Okay? They're selling it to building contractors at a much cheaper price as you buy your normal bags of cement. Alright? Their biggest customer is the contractor that's building on Johns Hopkins. So when we did this presentation, Hopkins people asking us to show them proof. We said, heck no, that's your responsibility. How can you buy contaminated cement and build on a medical institution? Okay? Because it's cheap. Once again, you see all this is new. So you can just imagine on a windy day how dusty this whole area is. Now I'm talking, okay? Are any of your mouths getting kind of dry? Yeah. That's from the dust. Now just think about the people that live and work here all day long. Okay, we turn here. No, go down Crescent Street. What did they have pavement?
It has Monument runs into Pulaski, turn right into North Crescent, then turn right into Lombard Street.
Okay. Yeah, we cross the light, right. We go all the way down to that stop sign.
Oh, okay.
Now, several times a week, the city had their street sweeper up in this area because so much runoff from the soil is down here on the streets that when the cars and trucks go by, dust is all over the place. To the left is the company I was telling you about that's called SSI. This is the company that's making the cement. They back over this hill. You go from here and they back up in here. Okay? And they're the ones that's selling this contaminated cement to general contractors. You make a turn right here. Okay? Now there's a small community down here. This is called the Jennings Community Association. There's people living down here. As we go down here, look at the gutters, look at the dust on the cars, the dust on the people's windows. You got a playground back up in here. Got all the illegal dumping. This was a predominantly white community at one time. Even though they know the contamination rate is high down here, a lot of the whites that was living here moved out. So down in this area, you have a lot of African Americans, you got Hispanics. They moved low-income people in this area, knowing about the environmental and health-related problems. I'll make another one right here. And we turn in here again. Now, most of the original homeowners on this street and on this street here had moved out. But you can see how much dust and everything was on all the cars. This is every day. Okay, go all the way back up and make another one. Now you see this pile right here on your right? All that is crushed glass. Okay? Now, when Hopkins did a survey down here, they found out that a lot of people that live down here were bleeding from the nostrils, were bleeding from the throat, because they're inhaling glass dust. Glass don't make dust, but glass particles that they're inhaling. Okay? And even though the city knows this, and which is one of the reasons why the people moved out, but they're still targeting low-income families that's on Section 8, supplementary income for your rent. They're allowing them to live here. Yes. Yes.
You use it as paving, right?
But they use the crushed glass as paving. You ever drive down the street and look at the street and sparkling? Yeah, so they were mixing it with that. I think we make a perfect number left.
This is turn right onto Lombard. Turn left on
No, turn it. If you can. I should have checked those. Okay, now we're gonna go see all the transformers over here? Transformers let off PCBs, which is cancerous. Once we cross this light, you're going to see even more of them back there. And all of them are behind 3 blocks of houses. When Hopkins came up here, because they found out that a lot of the patients that came up here that had cancer from lived in this area, so they went door to door. Almost every family member died of cancer, and other family members had cancer. So once again, the people that lived in this area moved out. But once again, they're allowing low-income families to move back in this area. We go all the way down to Boston Street. So now you can see a lot of Hispanics are now down here. But once again, why would the city allow families to move down here, knowing that there's environmental and health-related problems? We're going to keep straight down, all the way down to Boston Street. Let's get another lane. Now, all down Boston Street, as we go down here, you're going to see vacant lots, you're going to see warehouses where there's a lot of illegal dumping with environmental materials. That's because it's dark at night, can't nobody see them. But the city, whenever it happens, the city is down here, so this is patrolled pretty heavily by the police department.
If somebody wanted to do development in East Baltimore that work, what ingredients would have to do?
The question was, if anybody wanted to do development in East Baltimore,
That is effective. What ingredients would have to go into it?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that question.
You've got a role model in Black Point.
Oh, she just mentioned Wagner's Point. We're getting ready to do a documentary down in Wagner's Point and Fairfield about what happened down in that area. Within a 2-mile radius, there's over 13 chemical companies that's down in that area. The 2 community leaders that was fighting the city, the feds, EPA, wound up dying of cancer. Okay? They wound up taking those people homes by using eminent domain. The people down there said that they wanted a fair market value the same way they did in Fells Point, but they didn't do it. If you go and then Wagner's Point was a predominantly white neighborhood. And Fairfield, which is just a few blocks away, was an African American community. Almost all these people came from the hills of West Virginia. Now some people would ask, why would they move into an area like this? Well, from where they came from, they had environmental health-related problems, but it wasn't as bad as what it was in Wagner's Point. But throughout the years, they wound up having 13 different chemical companies there. It's very devastating. If you go into Wagner's Point now, you'll see one church that's still open, and there's one house. So we're in the process of doing a documentary. We're interviewing the church members. They're contacting us with homeowners that used to be in the area. We talk about their health problems, but we're going to make a story about what happened down there. But what happened there can happen here, can happen up here also. Now, as soon as we go up under this bridge, on both sides of the street, almost all this property was owned by Texaco Oil Company. These were the big white tanks that always leak. Once you look in there, you can see the mounds because they put them down like in a little bowl because the tankers will always leak. All of this is saturated with oil. There's a development plan to build residential and retail units up in here, but the ground is contaminated. This will be a brownfields covering project where they're going to build on top of contaminated soil. Okay? So you can see how the water's standing. You can see where some of the big pumps were, how they pumped the oil out when the tankers overflowed. But all this has contaminated oil and everything else up under this ground. Now we're going down to Boston Street, okay? I'm talking about where they get, and it gets even worse when we go further down here. But here on Boston Street, All this on this side of Boston Street was done with environmental brownfield cleanup called covering. The area on the other side of the street right here, this was all owned by Texaco. There's so much oil down in that area that they got 2 pumps pumping the oil out of the ground. Only 2 pumps. According to OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Authority. Okay, thank you. They said that's all you need. According to the Environmental Justice Coalition, they said you need better than 50 tanks, pumps, to pump that oil out of here. All that's still leaking into the harbor. A Japanese company want to purchase this and to rebuild on this too. We're going down towards Safeway supermarket. Remember I said in our neighborhood we lost so many supermarkets? From my house, we have to come all the way down here to make market. Ridiculous. But that's how ghettos are created. Now you see all the development that they're doing on my left and also on the right. Okay, you're going right, just go straight. And you see, we're not far from the harbor. Once again, all this was done with environmental covering, and they built on top of it. So to break the disconnect, our neighbors from the north came down here and said, we need your help to get them to stop dumping this stuff in our areas. We was told that's your problem. But once we talked about underground water flow and how all this stuff is going to come back to you, we also asked them, in your deeds where you bought these condominiums, these townhomes, do they have that you're living on contaminated soil? There's nothing in their deeds. The connect was this. When we tell them underground water flow, all this is going into the harbor. In the morning when dew come up, you got all this moisture on your cars, on your patios, on your pets, on your clothes, everywhere. And when it dries, it turns to dust. You're inhaling this stuff. Okay, so that was the connect. So now the neighborhood groups is working with us to try to stop the illegal dumping in our neighborhood. There was a disconnect. That's why the city wants these neighborhoods to be territorial and not work together. This city is afraid of coalitions. Johns Hopkins once again in the warehouse here. Now once again, all these warehouses on this side used to employ a lot of people from out of this community. Before waterfront property became popular, all the immigrants and poor people lived down here. But once waterfront property became popular, they started forcing, because of high-priced houses, because they couldn't afford the rents or the mortgage, forcing them back further up into African American communities that already had problems. What that does is cause a terrible disconnect in this area. The red brick building right here. If you go up here where the tables are, and there's a wall right up there, and at the bottom of the wall, you'll see oil keep coming through the paint. That was a brownfields cleanup, but they didn't get all the oil out of the building, so it's still a leak. Okay. Now, once we pass these houses right here, all the homes on this side, these are 500,000, 2 million plus homes. And these people are living on an environmental brownfield cleanup site. Okay? But if you ever come down here in the morning, because you got a lot of joggers, I'm telling you, it's really comical, because when you come down here, you see them jogging, but you see them, okay, they're coughing. Whereas if they're in Patterson Park, it won't happen. Patterson Park is only a few blocks away. But they don't realize what's making them cough. And these people paying big bucks for these houses here. Since we have created a dialogue with the neighborhood associations down here, we're beginning to have meetings now, and we're trying to encourage them to work with Terry Harris, who is an environmental attorney and is also the founder of the Environmental Justice Coalition organization. His thing was that he couldn't understand why community people was not getting involved with his coalition. It's because it's a disconnect. It wasn't connecting how the environment affects our health. I'm co-chair of the Environmental Justice Board. It's a program that we actually took out of Johns Hopkins and formed a non-profit organization. But it's to educate people about how our environment affects our health. When working in poor neighborhoods, it's like, how do you get people in poor neighborhoods to get active? Everybody's concerned about their family health. So when you connect that involvement in the health, I'm talking dirty yards, vacant lots, what goes down on storm drains, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, which way you want me to turn?
What did it have on it?
It says follow right into Washington Street.
Okay, go right, go left here, and then we make a right on Washington.
Just been along here.
Now, a couple things getting ready to happen. They're now beginning to look at storing some environmental fluids and gases down at Sparrows Point. But the different fluids and gases can't be together, so they're looking at putting them on different plants. Okay? But no one's talking about, again, underground water flow. No one's talking about the residents in Dundalk or Sparrows Point. So what we're doing is now trying to create a dialogue with the residents in Dundalk, that's predominantly white, and the African American intern station. To tell them y'all need to get together and work together. Don't do separate, work together, form a coalition. Down in the 1900 block of Charles Street, there's a vacant warehouse. This is in court now. This started about 3 years ago. One of the general contractors that was hired to remove contaminated soil and fluids. He hired the kids from that community and paid them good money to take buckets of these materials and dump on the rooftop. That meant that the fluids ran down the gutter, down the downspouts, okay, back on the streets, back into the gutter. Mr. Harris was upset because he didn't know why the parents wasn't upset about this. It's because they were paying these kids good money, they bought their tennis shoes, they bought clothes, and once again, this is in a poor neighborhood. This happened 3 years ago, and it's still tied up in court. I mean, things like this just shouldn't happen, okay? So this got you going back to the museum?
It says turn right on Washington, and you turn to campus, monument entrance, school public house.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
From the school public house. We're going down Washington Street.
Turn left into Crescent. It's interesting. Okay, I think it's wrong.
This is Washington. Okay, come talk about stuff on both sides of the street once you cross the second right. Now, a lot of people think that these vacant lot areas up here where they tore down public homes, they think Hopkins bought it, but the private investors bought these properties, but they are building for Hopkins use. Okay? So we got 3 square blocks. These used to be chapel townhomes. But they will be rebuilding residential and retail, but once again, high-priced houses, so it's not for these people in the community. Hopkins is really expanding. To your left here where you see the newest building between Fayette Street and Orleans. All that was chapel homes. These were chapel townhouses, over there were chapel homes. Now, in the biotech area, those residents fought hard to how do you do a demolition project. Have you ever noticed how they tear down these big buildings? They have one man with a water hose spraying it? Okay? They're responsible for making changes, and through the Environmental Justice Partnership Board, we're saying that if you want to tear down the building, you got to soak it first. Okay, soak it down first before you tear it down. Train the guy with the water hose. Give him the protective gear he needs. So now he's using a water hose, a fire hose. When they tore down these houses over here, they had a machine that did a sprayer. But still, you saw all the dust around here. No settlement controls at the storm drain. So that means that all that contamination from out of those houses went right back down into the storm drains again. So with the EJ board, the Environmental Justice Partnership Board, yes. We're trying to change how demolition is done. So they're trying to follow the guidelines and regulations that were put together or requested by the community people in the biotech area, but they're really not doing it in the other neighborhoods. Okay? That's that disconnect again. Years ago, when the residents in the Middle East found out about biotech, many of us long-term community advocates told them, let's form a coalition. All these neighborhoods that's going to have future development plans, let's form together and help you in the Middle East, the biotech area, work on how demolition will be done, how people will get a fair market value for their property, how they will also get relocation money. Politicians came in and told those people at that time, this is your neighborhood, you don't need outsiders. That was a big mistake. So now after all these years, the people in the biotech area, SPIAC, is now wanting to come out and work with other neighborhood leaders that's having development stuff done. This city is afraid of coalitions, and they keep us divided. So if I'm not mistaken, we're going back to the museum.
Back to where people are at?
Yes.
Okay.
Now about Hopkins, everything over here used to be homes, used to be housing. All this over here is high-priced houses there. Do I have any questions or concerns or?
Just curious, do you know anything about what's going to happen to Fort Howard?
No, I don't. And that's another reason for forming coalitions. You need to find out what's going on.
That's all that same area when you were talking about.
Just from a personal experience, I was born on O'Donnell Street. All my relatives lived in that area. At least 4 of my aunts died of cancers. Over the years, had cancer. I have 4 cousins, male cousins with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a form of leukemia. My father died of leukemia. A young cousin, all through continental plant workers,
Right.
tons of, so I know it's been killed, so.
Why did they decide to keep that one block there?
God, I forget the guy's name, but you got certain families that live in there that happen to be family members of the politicians. Okay? And that's a good question. Yes, why was that one block going to stay? That's the reason why. And that's the only block that's going to remain. Like I said, everything down here, all these houses, they're closing up all the schools. But we in the community know that. They're telling some of the residents that once they redevelop, you'll get first option to buy. These people can't afford these $200,000 homes. Another thing, the reason for closing up the schools, they're not going to allow, okay, you're looking at biotechnicians, researchers, doctors, and professionals moving in this neighborhood. The reason for closing up the schools is that they're not going to allow their children to be going to school with poor children. Okay? So now they're talking about sending our kids other places outside of the community. You see some condominiums back here that they just built. 150,000. I mean, this stuff is like unheard of. Huh? Condominium. No, what's unheard of is that you got these low-income houses and you're gonna build a development like that in this area. All what it does is hike up our property taxes. My house, I got my tax assessment on 509 Milton Avenue, just back here. I have a 3-story house. I gutted it, rehabbed it myself. It was appraised at $87,000. Okay? From the last few years, it's been decreasing. My tax assessment telling me $20,000. But yet still, right around the corner from me, the 400 block of North Court Street, between Orleans and Jefferson, they're gutting and rehabbing houses, and they want to sell them for $300,000 to $350,000. doesn't make sense, but that's how you create ghettos. These are Latrobe homes again. And you see how they put the new railings in. They put the handicap ramps. Because the long-term plan is that they're moving so many senior citizens out of the neighborhoods. They want to put more senior citizens and disabled into this complex. But they got to find somewhere for them to go. Along with other people in public housing that has to be moved, that will be eventually moved somewhere else. I'm sorry for my left and right directions, but it's kind of difficult when I'm turning.
Glenn, I heard recently there's 48,000 abandoned houses in the city, vacant houses, and the city owns 8,000. And the reason the city can take over your house like that, this one water bill, they won't take over these 40,000 private houses because then they have to pay insurance on them. They have to get insurance for them or
Yes.
something. Do you know anything about that? Can we talk about that?
No, I can't. I don't. No, I only talk about what I know about.
Right.
I can't really get into that, but I will tell you what's going on. We have people in our neighborhood who may own 2 or more properties that have been vacant for a while. They're having a hard time working with the city to find out who purchased their property during tax sales. But they don't want them to acquire the property.
That's all public record, isn't it?
But that is public health record if you got access to a computer, if you know how to work a computer. Okay, but we're talking about poor neighborhoods. We're talking about a community that's dealing with a 3rd generation of middle school dropouts. We're talking about a community that's dealing with one of the highest literacy rates in the city, the African American and white community as well. Okay, we're talking about communities where there is no neighborhood association, where the community associations don't work together. We're also talking about, if you get the Baltimore community directly, and you look at all the community leaders, and especially in East Baltimore, you see some of these people have been president for 20 and 30 years. As far as we're concerned, too many of them are in the politician's pocket. Okay, that even go for some of the tenant councils. All right?
So in other words, they're trying to get these absentee owners, they're trying to hold them accountable, but they can't get the information they need to do that? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is some of the homeowners there, they may own 2 or more properties. Okay? And they've been vacant for years because they couldn't get no renters to move in. So they got pulled up during the tax sales. So they're trying to find out who bought the property and how much did they buy it for, so that they can go down and pay it off. And they're having a hard time trying to get that information on what it is. That's done on purpose. Okay?
And another similar thing, the houses that are boarded that have like stenciled black letters, with like a number and etc., those are owned by the city. That's what the city does, they stencil it. And like a common joke among housing authority employees is that the city is actually the largest landlord in the city.
8,000 houses.
Yeah, so I don't know. Okay, I don't know the number of the actual houses, but yeah, you're right about the number of total vacants. It's over 40,000. Yeah, you're right. I don't know about that number, but the number of total vacant houses is over 40,000.
Once again, we've heard people on this bus that gave information, that talked about things. That's a coalition. Okay? And that's what we need to start doing, right? Is forming coalitions to talk about every kind of issue there is that affects our neighborhoods in the city. That's what this city is afraid of. They don't want us to do that. Okay? Fort Howard that you talked about, that's all brand new to me. So that means I just learned something. Okay? So that's why it's good to go back and talk this up with other people in your neighborhoods, other people you know. Hopefully a coalition could be put together on how to deal with this. I mean, you look at, for instance, Mount Vernon Charles Village. If you go over there, they took those multi-family dwelling units, turned them into apartments or 1 rooms. You got a lot of low-income people there. You got people just out of prison, out of recovery. But if you go up there, you got a lot of social service type programs. That's up there, free clinics, the whole 9 yards. they're getting ready to throw money up in that area to redevelop it. That means that those people that live there, where they're going to go at? For their services. The services can't provide because the people are not there because it's too inconvenient to get. Let's talk about down on Boston Street. They're forcing a lot of the immigrants, mostly Native Americans and Hispanics, to move further north. But if you look at Broadway, all of their bilingual type businesses, health providers, attorneys are all down there. But they're moving them into neighborhoods that there's no service programs, there's no bilingual businesses. Okay, so why do that? So I said that there's two ways of destroying the neighborhood. One is you take the resources out of the community, you get poor city service. You just so happen that the drug culture seems to have a license to do business there, and people move out. The other way is that you actually force the people out for high-priced houses, and you're moving them away from their resources. And that should, if you know that a big population of a group of immigrants are being moved in the area, you should be talking about trying to create some type of cultural exchange program with those neighborhoods that they're moving into. You should be talking about moving some of them businesses up into these areas, but none of that is being done. None of that would never happen if the neighborhood groups don't get together and create some kind of dialogue. In McElvey Park, one of my main concerns is that our slum landlords are taking pure advantage of this advantage. They're moving 4 or more into a room, okay? They're also being hard, the illegal immigrants are being hard by these contractors, especially that's working on brownfield sites. They're not trained, they don't have the right protective gear. When they get off from work, they got all this contamination on their clothes. They come back, they're walking in our stores, our bars, our supermarkets. They take this back home to people that they live with. That shouldn't be allowed to happen, okay? But no one's talking about that. On Friday evenings, if you're down on Patterson, in the Patterson Park, on Patterson Park Avenue side, you'll see groups of immigrants standing on the corner, waiting for the contractor to come and pay them. But what happens is that if you look in the alleyway or into Patterson Park, you can see the criminal culture standing watching because they want to try to rob them. So what's coming from the Hispanic community is, why is the African Americans attacking them? It's not what it is, it's what it looks like. So it's a total disconnect in communications. And my theme that I always use is that we got to break this disconnect, okay, by changing the game. Changing the game is that we got to start looking at and doing things that help us. We got to stop. Most neighborhood groups deal from playing from season to season, year to year. Okay? When you look at Hopkins in the city, they got their 20, 40, 60, 80-year plans. We don't do that. So we got to start working together and looking at long-term plans. Years ago, on SECO, Southeast Community Organization, several of us African Americans that was on the board representing our neighborhoods told the predominantly white board, we see a decay beginning to come in our neighborhoods. The neighborhood groups south of Fayette Street were more organized, better organized than ours. So we said we need you to come up here and help us to do community development leadership training, so we start grooming people for future leadership so we can stabilize our community, because this decay is coming down. And if that doesn't happen, it's going to bleed in your area. We were told at that time that's your problem. But now all that decay that was in the biotech area, the Middle East area, which is now biotech, came to my neighborhood, McElvey Park, about 16, 17 years ago. Now it's all down by Santoni's, down by Lombard. So we can look at some of the same criminal and drug culture people that have been in our neighborhood that's now down in there. Okay? But behind every decayed neighborhood, there's a development plan. And there's a reason for that. I'm so sorry to be talking all over the place.
No, this is good to hear. This has been very
I know y'all heard me real good then.
So you're really saying it's the development sort of impetus that creates these neighborhoods and that suck the energy from them and split them from building cohesive links with other neighborhoods.
Exactly, and also when the neighborhoods start decaying, your what I'm gonna call quality people, your better educated people, okay, your most resourceful people, they're the first one to move out of the community. Okay, then you start losing your resources, your quality businesses, self-help programs.
And what point does the drug culture then come into this?
At the first sign of decay. But that adds to it. That adds to it. Poor city service. Okay, the neighborhood associations dissolve. So it's created. And we passed the museum. We passed it.
No, we gotta turn south. We're too far north.
Are you working with
Take
the...
us there and put us on the right side.
We gotta take
St. Paul. Back up.
museums. We gotta go this way. We have museums, so you gotta like go up, back, past, and then around.
But
again.
tell her which turns to make. I think at the next light, make a right.
Yeah,
We gotta go south.
St. Paul. Yeah, we gotta go
St. Paul.
south.
Are you working with the community arts program at MICA?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I teach at MICA.
Okay.
I'm in photography.
Bernard Cassidy. No, Bernard Cassidy.
Bernard Cannon is the Welsh guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on our Environmental Justice Partnership Board.
Oh, wow.
And what we're doing to educate people about the environment and the health, we're getting the MICA students to communicate that through the art. Because like I said, we're dealing with third generation of middle school dropouts. And we have the highest literacy rate. So you can give them all the paperwork in the world to read, and then I can read or comprehend what they read. So by doing it through the arts, it's a better system. So we have this project called the Pretty Project. So we'll say like
Go St. Paul.
we say like HIV is pretty under a microscope.
Yeah.
Okay? If people look at it and say, what you mean? Then we're able to give them the information. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the best thing to do is probably go down to Saratoga, take a right, and then come back up like Howard, and then take another right. Back to the Contemporary Museum. Right. Quickly. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry that I'm watching. I'm talking back here.
Yeah, look for Franklin. We'll take a right on Franklin with a few more lights.
Yeah, I'm just want to answer this question. Anybody got dry tongue, dry mouth? I mean, got scratchy eyes? Okay, and we just drove through it. Okay, we're not living there 24/7, or we're not working there 8 hours.
Have there been any studies that you know of about rain quality? I would imagine all of this material would just evaporate into the air and then get redistributed across the city and
Not that I know of, but that sounds like something that Mr. Tim Buckley, that was working for Hopkins, that was dealing with the air quality. He's the one that was doing all the emission testing down by the harbor. Okay?
Take a left at the light after this.
So we haven't done this yet. And that just goes to show you, it's so much. You know what I mean? This is so much.
Does anybody know what number our cancer rate is in comparison to the rest of the U.S.? It's way up there. I know that.
I don't know it offhand, but it is there. It is there. Yes.
Do you know the numbers for like lead? Because I know we have like really serious lead poisoning problems for children in East Baltimore.
Anything on lead, I would ask y'all to talk to Miss Rufan Norton. Okay, the Coalition in Childhood Lead Poisoning.
So Glenn,
We can go down to Burger King with cheese pool is.
Glenn, what you're arguing is that in order to keep a community healthy, you have to make sure that there's not too much pressure to heat up the market, and that there's also not destructive factors that push the market down.
Yeah.
So it's about stability.
Right. But see, it's always happened in poor neighborhoods. So it's kind of like, how many educated people are in poor neighborhoods to comprehend what you just said? You see what I mean? Or get them to thinking about why they need to sit down at a meeting, all right? Very few neighborhoods are doing community development leadership training. In McGillivray Park, we was doing it because we believe in grooming people for future leadership. You can go to some organizations, community development leadership training, you're going to learn something, but what you learn doesn't really fit all the needs in your community. In McGillivray Park, we did a tailor-made training. Our neighborhood was diverse, we had poverty, okay, third generation middle school dropouts. So we did a training that includes the whole household. So we got University of Maryland Department of Social Work to do a personality needs assessment where people learn their strengths and weaknesses, okay? Director Dick Cook administered the test. So if in your head it comes out D-I-S-C, okay? So he say, for example, if you're a D and an I, you're the type of person to take a cold piece of chicken out the refrigerator, stand up, sing it, eat it, and enjoy it. He'll say you're more administrative, you're more occupational. So I asked them to show them where they fit in a community organization. So they say you'll make a good chair, a good co-chair.
It's we can either do this corner, or since it's a one-way street, we gotta go. Yeah, we can go up Franklin
Most
and come around.
funders will always give, especially poor neighborhoods, monies to do beautification projects, neighborhood cleanups, and one-time events. Okay? We also did family life learning skills. We did nourishing training. We did communication training. Then we did community development leadership training. We took $4,000 from the Annie Casey Foundation on a small grants program. We said we were going to train 40 people. We trained 99 people and produced 21 block captains. Block captains. People that was in charge of one or more blocks. With the help of University of Maryland Department of Social Work, Banner Neighborhoods, and my neighborhood association, we want to do another level of training. Okay? I have a letter at home in my office from Andy Casey talking about how outstanding the training was, what we did, what this meant to a community, but we couldn't get no more money for training. And people ask questions why. My feeling is that the reason why we couldn't get no more money, because no one want to give money to a neighborhood that is designed to decay. So they're not interested in giving money to a community that's trying to stabilize their people or groom people for future leadership, because the neighborhood is planning to decay. So it didn't make sense not to give us no money. But that's what happened. I have other kind of maps and whatnot, and if anyone will contact me, you can contact Camp Baltimore. They give you my number.